We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Today is Saturday. Hopefully, you had a great day yesterday, and we're going to try to make it better for you today. Uh, our guest, as I promised yesterday, is Ed. Ed is back for his weekly visit. And Ed, I just wanted to tell you, there's somebody, I don't know if you heard this, somebody emailed me or sent me a message and was saying how much they like the show.
Yeah.
And they said, this is what they said. It surprised me. Um, they said, I love the show. First, I love Ed's shows. Second, I love Old Soul. And and I kind of like you, Mike, too. So I was third. I was third on the fucking list. So that's
Yeah,
great.
me and Old Soul are in negotiations to start up our own spinoff. So no, I'm kidding.
Well, you
Not
know,
really.
it's funny with you, Ed. When you first started coming on the show, people were kind of wondering, well, who is he and why is he on the show and stuff like that. But apparently, you're an acquired taste because now people love you.
All right, I dig it. It worked that way with my wife too. I just kept
You just kept pounding on
working.
her.
Yeah, kept working at it. There
Yeah.
you go.
Well, on the other side of the coin, Old Soul, as soon as she came on, everybody fucking loved her.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced people like her better than anybody else. And for good reason. She's very thoughtful and she's very smart, very compassionate, and very articulate. Anyway, we got a lot of shit to talk about. In the week since we've last spoken, there's a lot of shit that's going on. I wanted to bring up something to see what you think about this, though. We know the Russians killed um, Alexei Navalny, the
Yeah.
opposition candidate. Now, I don't know why anybody was surprised by this because that was going to be the end game no matter what. The only way Vladimir Putin was going to play this was kill him. It's just surprising to me that he waited this long. So everybody's up in arms. And of course, Joe Biden has announced that he's got 500 different sanctions against Russia.
Yeah.
Now, here's the problem. We've already sanctioned the fuck out of Russia.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
When do fucking sanctions ever work? I mean, we sanctioned them for starting the war with Ukraine. Ukraine war still going on. Do sanctions even fucking work?
They hurt them to a certain extent, but the problem with Russia is they got workarounds because they have China over here to help them out. They have others,
Right.
other enablers that no matter what economic sanctions we hit them with. Now, the best one I have heard is that in the West, there is all kinds of Russian investments
Right.
that are in banks that are frozen. And right now, I've heard that they can take the interest anytime they want. But I mean, what is to stop us? What is to stop the Western democracies from taking all that money and saying, up yours, Putin? This is our money now, and we're going to use it to fund the war in Ukraine. What's wrong with? Let's do that. Let's stop talking about it and just do it.
That's the thing. I brought that up in a TikTok and on the podcast before. As I understand it, they have $300 billion that is frozen. Right. Now, it's not all in the United States. I think in the United States, there's only about 6-7 billion here. But in other countries, there's up to 300 billion, more Western countries. Why not just take that money, give some money to Ukraine, make them healthy? I mean, it would be perfect just desserts. It would be a way to punish fucking Vladimir Putin, and it would serve our purposes in Israel and Ukraine. And it would also allow us to tell Congress to fuck the hell off because you're not doing your fucking job. We're just going to do it. I don't know why that's a bridge too far, why they won't do that. I mean, if the government froze your money, are you ever getting that money back? No, you're not getting the money back. So why should fucking Russia?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, what here in the United States, what we have to realize and to publicize and to scream from the rooftops is half our politicians are owned by Russia. That's apparently, what's slowing everything. Well, they're not even apparently. I mean, we know that every one of them, Mike Johnson and specifically, have been funded by Russian oligarchs. We have we can prove that. We also know that the NRA has been a conduit for Russian money to politicians for years. That's been going on. We know that. And all it takes is people with the cojones to just come out and say that.
Yeah.
The problem is there are plenty of Democrats that are in vulnerable areas, so to speak, that if they come out against the NRA, for example, that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back if they're in an area where where the NRA is very popular, I guess. What we need is some people who are willing to take. I mean, Navalny, I thought when he went back, I said, "Why are you doing this? You know, stay in the West and be a spokesperson against him or something. If you go back, you're a dead man."
Exactly.
Just like the guy, I forget his name, who ran the Wagner Group and tried to come to some accommodation with Putin. Well, suddenly his plane falls out of the air. Right? Ooh, big accident. I mean, anytime you put yourself in Russia, and this is another thing, the United States has to stop all travel to Russia. I mean, right now they got the ballerina, they've got a journalist, they've got different people. Whenever they feel like it, they just grab somebody and say, espionage, and use them for leverage. Stop. Either stop them people from going, basketball players, ballerinas. I don't give a shit. You stop them from going, or sorry, you're dead to us because you don't need to be there. You're just putting yourself in to be a hostage. And while I do have sympathy for their situation, this is something you choose, and we control passports. Nobody gets a passport to Russia. Nobody.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think
Zero,
you're right
zero,
about that.
zero.
I mean, I think if you and I were to do a promotional tour and do a Rational Boomer podcast in Moscow, how long do you think we'd be fucking free? We'd be in
We'd be
jail.
in Arctic Circle tomorrow.
And guess what? We're not going there. You
No.
couldn't pay me to go there.
No, not enough money anywhere for
Well,
that.
I think one of the problems we have with Congress, it's what do they call them? What do they call that with nuclear war? Mutual destruction.
It's mutually assured destruction. Whatever.
If you do this, I'll do that, and then the world will be gone. And that's kind of what we have in Congress. There's a lot of things that should be called out about the Republicans, but the Democrats have enough bullshit where they know it'll just be a shit show and they'll be exploding everybody, and everybody in Congress will be affected. I mean, we have a perfect illustration of the influence of Russia in Congress with this recent witness that James Comer and Jim Jordan brought up, this Alexander Smirnov, who testified against Joe Biden because Joe Biden's a criminal. And we find out that he's a liar, which, wow, that's bad news for the Republicans. And then we find out that he's getting his information from Russian intelligence.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a huge investigation for Congress and fucking the FBI, because the FBI has had him as an informant for 10 fucking years. He's a double agent, for God's sake.
Exactly. And that's the way it works. I mean, they cultivate these guys, but so do the Russians. And these guys are playing both sides against the middle, because they get 2 paydays, right?
Right.
And they're always working for both sides, regardless. Right. They're always doing it, or they'd be dead, because quite frankly, the Russians know, and we know about this individual. So, I mean, there are very few that are able to work totally on the down low, if you know what I mean. Both sides know these individuals are working both sides, but they hope that they're going to get enough information or enough leverage out of them somehow or other to make it worthwhile. And they try to feed them stuff that makes no difference, that may be credible, but makes no difference, and that sort of thing, to keep the link going. I worked in MI. I know how it works. And that's how, we do a lot of stuff for information gathering, but still the thing that works best and that we work at the most is turning one of theirs. That's the main thing with espionage. Turn one of theirs, or they turn one of ours. We've seen that too. I mean, there's a sailor on a submarine, or I believe it's a submarine right now, who's under suspicion for being an asset. So, it works both ways. To me, and I'm just an old curmudgeon, and maybe there are things I haven't considered, but when they take somebody like they have with this ballerina or with journalist or different ones, the basketball player, you pull your diplomats and then you arrest all theirs. And you say, you give us our people back and maybe we'll give you one of yours, or maybe we'll just shoot them, I mean, sometimes I think you have to play hardball. And that's another thing when it comes to Ukraine, maybe we take the gloves off a little bit. We're giving them this, we're giving them that. We're not giving them the good stuff. Give them the good stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And I've been thinking about this. If I'm trying to give a good comparison to this, like say you're an attractive young woman and you're sitting someplace and a guy puts his hand on your knee, and you go, "Please don't do that. Please don't do that," and the fucker's still going to do it. If that girl gets a little intense and punches that motherfucker in the mouth, he will stop then. And that's the point. We keep pussyfooting around. Oh, we're going to sanction this. I mean, we haven't been able to get Cuban cigars since the 60s. How has that crushed Cuba, for God's sake? Those fucking sanctions. It's time to get down to business.
But I can go out and have a Cuban cigar by this afternoon if I want.
How
and
so?
You know it. They're available. They come in. You just got to You just got to know the right people. I mean, you can get anything. You can get Russian caviar if you want it. Well, I mean, there are ways to do that. You can't do it legitimately, no, but you can get it.
Well, you have to understand, Ed. Not all of us worked in intelligence or still kind of underground spies and are paid by the DNC to spread propaganda. I mean, you're more connected than the rest of us. You can get, whenever you hear somebody say, and I say this a lot, somebody says, I need something. I go, I got a guy. Ed's my guy. Ed's my guy. Well, do you think that this whole thing, I mean, this is really explosive. They're trying to get Joe Biden. They're using a guy who acknowledged he lied, and he's getting his information from Russia. Now we go to Jim Jordan, we go to James Comer, and they go, well, that's not really a big deal. It doesn't change anything. Fucking changes everything. You were taking information knowingly and willingly because you knew about it ahead of time. The DOJ said, don't use this shit. They knew it about ahead of time. This is tantamount to fucking treason.
It is. And they are treasonous. They are traitors. And there's no other way to look at it. If they're cozying up to Putin, Putin is still the number one bad guy in the world. There's others, but he's the number one bad guy. He is, Trump and others are always complaining about communism and how Biden's a communist. We're going to be communist all the time, and which he uses interchangeably with fascist because he doesn't know the difference. He doesn't. Nothing.
It's a buzzword.
But Russia hasn't been communist probably since Khrushchev. Right. I think Khrushchev was a dedicated communist, but beyond that, Gorbachev came out of the same place that Putin did. And I have to say that I had hopes with Gorbachev because I do think that he had some some ideas about bringing Russia into the modern world and into being a player in international politics and international business and so forth that wouldn't be seen as the pariah they are. Okay. Right. I think he had ambitions that way, and that's why he was removed. And they put the idiot Yeltsin in because he also recognized that they could not maintain that empire they had called the Soviet Union. Right. And let it go and said, okay, East Germans and all you guys, you're going to have to take your own shit from now on. We can't afford it, which is basically what he said. But anyway, we have to realize that anybody who's dealing with Russia is not dealing with a communist government. They're dealing with the mob. That's what it comes down to. The MOB. It's an international kleptocracy.
Right.
And that's why they are involved with so many American politicians who are also involved with the international kleptocracy because they work for the oligarchs of this country who are of the same stripe as the ones in Russia, that are the same ones in worldwide. It's a club that they all belong to.
Well, you know, the thing about it is this story is, it illustrates just how unhealthy this country is. The
Yes.
idea that the Republican Party is getting information from Russian intelligence trying to take down a sitting president. In any other time in history, this would be the biggest story there ever fucking was. This would be
Yes.
crazy, but you don't see the Democrats really milking that thing. And this is what
Yeah.
this is why I'm talking about. Everybody pussyfoots around. It's time to put the fucking hammer down. We're getting down to the final strokes before the election, and we need to expose these fucks for everything they are and make them pay for everything they've got. They've got a slim majority in the House, and that's all they fucking got. The power is there to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, anytime somebody tells me, "Well, he's a conservative Democrat," no, he's not. He's a stooge for the oligarchs. He's just another Republican who tries to pass himself off as a Democrat. I'm talking to you, Joe Manchin, and I'm glad you're gone. Okay,
Dean
I'm glad
Phillips.
you. Dean Phillips, another one. Yes, I mean, these are people who are out for their own good. They have nothing. They'll betray anybody or any. They have no scruples, none at all. And this is pretty much the entire Republican Party right now. Um, I don't know what got into Liz Cheney. Maybe it's just that she hates Trump. I'm not sure, but she was right along there. I mean, Dick Cheney's the same stripe to a certain extent. And then you add in the Christian nationalist, which is a whole different thing, but they're symbiotic. It's two viruses working together, so to speak, because they see that maybe if they go in with Putin and the democracy is destroyed, then they take power, and then you have the worldwide oligarchy, who's basically what you're going to do is just it's back to feudalism. You have a few kings, a few nobles, and everybody else is a peasant. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're after. And of course, the church is in there too. I mean, they are also very much of, it was great when everybody had to do obeisance to us and we did the rules. So it's not all churches, but a goodly portion, especially it seems to have really infected some areas of Catholicism, and definitely the Evangelicals, that they have reached this point where their fealty is not to God, not to Jesus, it's to Donald Trump, and who ultimately is controlled by Putin. So it's to Putin.
It absolutely is to Putin, and Republicans are unashamedly supporting Vladimir Putin in Russia. You know, back when I got in this little argument with a family member, one of the things that they hated that I said so much was that I said evangelical Christians are the enemy of this country. Now, back then, we didn't even know as much as we know now. But he was mad because he says, my family's evangelical. And I said, my opinion still stands. They're fucking enemies of this country. And as we go along, we find out just how bad they are. They're not only inflicting their religion, they're now hurting women with these abortion bans and all this stuff. And they are truly enemies of this country. I've always said when it comes to religions with me, I'm not a big guy on organized religion. It's not that I don't believe in God. It's not that I don't pray. I do. But I see organized religions as clubs built and run and organized by humans who all have some failings. They're about money and power. And then when money and power comes in and they use God as their shield, that's where the fucking problem lies. We're dealing with dirty fucking people that are using something that they want us to believe is sacrosanct so they can benefit. And that's where the fucking problem comes in.
Yeah, I want to tell you a little story about there's a woman here in this town where I live, Now, a few years ago, there was another woman in this town who was very much into Q. You remember Q, right? And she considered herself a quote digital warrior as part of the Q group and so forth. And this other woman who was a Facebook friend of mine, because she had some liberal leanings and she was very anti-Trump, and she was right in this woman's face a lot, which I respected. Because there were a lot of other Q people around here, and you don't want to mess with somebody that crazy if you don't have to. But somewhere along the line, something happened. She also happens to be very religious, and somewhere along the line, she got into this church locally that where the pastor is very much a Trump pumper, as you say, and I started seeing things where she became very demonstrably evangelical online, putting up memes and so forth and so forth. And I said, "Oh, well, that's okay. I know she's a good person, and her head's together." Then she started posting pictures of her rifle, her automatic weapon,
Wow.
and and wanting to know if somebody could adjust her sights for her on her assault rifle and so forth. And then just very recently, she put up a thing that said, "Liberalism gave Satan his foothold in America." And I threw up my hands and basically unfriended her because I don't need that shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a person who has become radicalized. Now, part of it, I think, was because her husband had some real health problems, and I think maybe she somehow or other thought that being liberal was contributing to God cursing her husband. I don't know. Uh, I can't get into that mindset that takes you from being a fairly reasonable person into being a lunatic. But she made that transition, and I saw that one happen, and it's not unusual. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of Greg Locke, but he's a
Yeah.
Tennessee
He's a fucking
wacko
idiot.
preacher. Yeah, he's now saying you can't be a Christian and a Democrat. If you're a Democrat, you can't be in my church. Well, I had to laugh because this guy has a tent, okay,
Yeah.
this big tent, and when we had our recent big snow, it crushed it, and I had to say, "Well, God took care of you, buddy."
Yeah. God's will.
I don't,
God's
I don't.
will.
Yeah, exactly. His tent fell down because of the snow.
Well,
I think we may.
you heard about this Supreme Court finding in Alabama, how frozen
Yeah,
embryos have the same
are,
rights as living children. Now, here's
right.
something interesting to note. I think I talked about it yesterday on the podcast. Alabama Chief Justice Tom Parker wrote the opinion on this. If you want a perfect illustration how evangelicals are tied into QAnon and all this stuff, because Parker is an evangelical, Parker was on a show called Someone You Should Know, hosted by a guy named Johnny Enlow. He's a
I've
Christian.
heard of him.
He's a Christian nationalist, influencer, devoted supporter of Trump, um, and he's a big QAnon freak. He is
Yeah,
fucking nuts. He's talking about that Trump is on assignment from God to work with angels Michael and Gabriel to take down George Soros, Bill Gates, and others. He's
yeah,
claimed that Russian President Vladimir Putin is fighting for Luciferian pedophiles in Ukraine, fighting against them. See, that's the point. These fuckers are nuts. And this is
yeah.
the evangelicals. These are the Christian nationals. And then when you get a Supreme Court Justice of Alabama buddies with this motherfucker, shows up on his show. He has no concern about his credibility or legitimacy. He's just trying to push his sick fucking agenda.
Yeah, this is the thing. I don't know that guy. I can't see into his mind and stuff, but I know Alex Jones enough to realize they're cut from the same cloth. So is Greg Locke. So are all these. There is not a bit of credibility among them. There is not a real. They don't really believe any of this. They just know that the rabble, and that's what they are. The rabble will love it. They will be part of it because it makes them feel special. And persecution even more. I mean, you know, I may have mentioned that at one point I was an evangelical myself, so I understand this idea that you are right and righteous, and that everybody else is against you because you are right and righteous and they're not. It's very central to it, and it's very seductive, very seductive. And you know, I consider myself a recovering evangelical. I got out. You know, some other people I know got out, and we are very vocal about it. And I'm sorry that if I offend someone because of that, but you need to get out too. And I'm not saying every church that identifies as an evangelical church is totally a waste of time, but it's getting pretty close. I mean, if they're still using that designation, that tells you something right there. And it's I don't know how to deal with that except to say that the real churches, the mainstream churches, either need to stand up, be heard from, fight back against this, or you're going to be gone. You're going to be thrown out with the bathwater, just like they are, because
Yeah.
it's going to happen. There is going to be a turn back against this kind of stuff, and all the churches will suffer, all of them. Well, they already are. I mean, people see this and they go, why would I want to be involved with something like that?
Yeah.
And so you know, I can even chart it. I live very near to a large Baptist church, and they have a gigantic parking lot that used to be full every Sunday. Now it's about a third full.
Right. Well, I think people, it's kind of like the Republicans. It's like, well, we got away with this. Now let's try this. They keep pushing the envelope, and they're not
Yeah.
smart enough to realize when they've gone too far, when they've is to take a internet out of the internet vernacular, when they've jumped the shark, you know, and when they've gone too far, and then there's no way back. And I think religion, to a large extent, has done that, especially the evangelicals, the Christian nationals. I mean, this Supreme Court justice made this statement, and this alone should make him incompetent for being on the Supreme Court or in any kind of political position. He said, God created government. Give me the facts on that, bitch. No,
Yeah.
God didn't create government. God created man, and man created government. So the whole thing is, but my relative hates the fact that I think evangelicals are the scourge of the earth, and I do, because not only I know you're not a religious guy, and I don't know what to call it. Religious connotates organized religion,
Right.
but I am a believer in a God, and I have a reason for it, and I pray and whatever. Um, but not only are evangelicals hurting and all the other religions that are doing it and basically robbing the people of this country, they're also insulting people who actually believe in something and have good reason for it. That's my big problem with the evangelicals. They're not only fucking trying to ruin this country, they're insulting me and besmirching the name of God or whatever you want to call it. And they don't care. These people, I think you were right about what you said. It's not so much that they're immediately evil, they end up being evil. It's their opportunist. They see
Right.
a train they can jump on and make some hay and make some money, and they don't care what the fuck they do to get it. That's how the Republicans are. They don't care what kind of bad shit they can get on Joe Biden or even where they get it from. They're going to suck it all up and use it to the hilt. And they're just fucking opportunists, ultimately becoming evil. They get exposed and they say, yeah, that didn't happen. And they keep moving on. It's all fucking ridiculous. And what's ridiculous is that the vast majority of the public hasn't said, wait a fucking minute, that's dumb. We're not listening to that shit anymore. But enough people still do listen. And that's what's troubling.
Yeah, well, if you go back to the very first people to show up in this country from Europe, I mean, okay, the first ones were Spanish down in Florida. That was the big one, and people forget that shit. You know, they go Pilgrims. Pilgrims were the first. No, they weren't. But anyway, they did come here. The Puritans in Salem and throughout Massachusetts. And what did they do? They decided to hang a bunch of their own people for witchcraft.
Right.
And let me say this right now. Evangelicals are really into witchcraft and Satan, maybe more than they are into God.
Really?
Quite well. I mean, they think that there's this boogeyman out to get them, and that all of these people who are any way different, if you're gay, if you're transgender, if you're a Democrat, that you're in league with Satan. And so if you go back to Salem, which was only one place where they hung people for witchcraft, and a little bit smaller than some of the others, but this was rampant there, just like it was rampant in Europe at one point. I mean, the burning years, they called it in Europe, where mostly women were accused of witchcraft and put to death. Same thing in Salem and so forth. And that seed has been with us ever since then. It came right over with the Puritans right at the beginning, and it's never left. It's been that undercurrent that there are the good people and everybody else is evil. Right. And there's this mythical figure, Satan, who is and demons. Oh, they're big into demons. There are demons everywhere. Well, neither exists. Okay, they just don't. I'm sorry.
Well,
get over it. Get over it, people. Grow the fuck up.
Well, the thing about it,
demons.
The thing about it is that this is all the scary thing about this. All these things, these bad things, are precipitated from organized religion. Again, It's a bunch of people coming together for what they claim is God, but then they start taking their agendas and try to gain power and money, and then they shove it down other people's throat. That's the problem with organized religion, and all of them have a problem. None as bad as evangelicals or Christian nationals, but there is that kind of attitude. We're the best. Everybody else is going to hell, and that's just not the case. That's just fucking not the case. I wanted to talk about. I wanted to give you an aside. I mentioned Dean Phillips. He's a particular pet peeve to me because he represents me in this state of Minnesota. And, he wanted to join the primary to go up against Joe Biden because he thinks we need to do it, that Joe Biden's not going to win. Well, if he says that, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, but he's really in this for himself. A couple of things I found out. I said, as soon as he got on that primary thing, I said, that motherfucker, if I can help it, will never represent me in this community ever again. And turns out he's not going to run for re-election because he probably won't make it. But he's running in these primaries, talking the shit. He gets his ass kicked, and he still keeps pushing forward. But there's a couple of things that happened recently that expose him for who he fucking really is. First of all, there was a story, and somebody asked him, and he said, yeah, I would consider going on the ticket with Nikki Haley. Really, motherfucker, you're a Democrat. And you think Nikki Haley wants to get some Democratic votes and she's going to put you on board? Nobody likes you, motherfucker. More importantly, nobody knows who the fuck you are.
That's right.
But this is the one that pisses me off. Remember the story about the AI generated phone call that went out to voters? It had Joe Biden's voice saying, don't waste your vote on this one. Go to the next one. We all presumed that was Republicans, right? We all presumed it was a fucking consultant of Dean Phillips. So he's been exposed for what he is. We should boot his ass out of the Democratic Party. He should be shunned.
Absolutely.
And any Democrat that thinks they should vote for him needs to think it over again, because this fucker is nothing but an infiltrator, and he's nothing but he's working against the Democratic Party. So fuck him. And I've told Dean Phillips before, I'm one of your constituents, motherfucker. Come on the show. I fucking dare you.
He won't.
No, he won't.
We know that. Yeah. I saw there's a Minnesota story that isn't getting a huge amount of play just yet, but it may wind up being something. And that there was a gentleman who showed up on January 6th from Minnesota, and he was charged with, I think, 3 different assaults on police officers and was convicted and sent to jail. Now he's considering suing the people that spread the lies.
Oh, great.
I'm hoping that he does, and I'm
I do
hoping
too.
this becomes a trend, maybe even a class action suit against any politician who came out with that, and that of course would be Trump, but all the others too, that back that kind of the election denialism and all of that, because he's saying basically, they seduced me with it was stolen. I considered myself a patriot because somebody was trying to steal an election, and they were telling me they had all this evidence, and it looked good to me. So I went there and I was fighting the good fight, and then they abandoned me to go to prison. So why wouldn't he sue? I mean, I'm hoping that it goes somewhere.
I
I
do
don't remember
too.
the guy's name, but
Hopefully
it
he
struck me it was a good idea.
hopefully he does sue and it causes problems for those folks. But here's the thing. I hate the fact that people will always say, well, it's not my fault. I just got hoodwinked. No,
Yeah.
motherfucker, you're an adult. How did 70% of the country realize it was not right and you didn't? Is it because they were so good at convincing you, or is it because you're a dumb motherfucker? And if you're a dumb motherfucker, you need to pay the price for what you did. I hope they do sue them, but I'm tired of people saying, "Oh, it wasn't my fault because somebody else did something bad." At some point,
Yeah.
the main person who did something bad needs to be responsible. You walked into the Capitol, broke into the Capitol, did damage, pissed and shit all over the floor. You're going to jail, motherfucker. If you want to sue those people, but take some fucking responsibility.
Yeah, and this is the other thing. I mean, here's Trump. He's basically saying, if I get back in the White House, I'm pardoning all these people.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see if he does. He had the opportunity. Remember, I mean, he
He
still
did,
had
yeah.
he had the opportunity to say, well, it was my bad. I called him here. They got in trouble. I'm pardoning these people. He could have done that very easily. He
Right.
chose not to.
Right.
He,
Yeah. No.
he
Well, Donnie's making all kinds of claims right now as if he really
yeah.
even has a chance. I mean, the situation with his lawsuit, he owes $355 million plus 83 plus 5 plus interest, which is another 100 million. By the time it's all said and done, we're looking at $600 million. And he says, "Oh, I got all kinds of cash." But when is the last time we believed Donald Trump? People like him don't have a lot of cash. It's all
No.
fucking leveraged one way or another. So now he's going to have to come up with it, and he goes back to the judge and he says, "Ah, yeah, I know you need this in 30 days. Could you give me another 30 days?" And
No.
the judge says, "Fuck yourself." Well, Donald
Yeah.
Trump just ended up the last 6 months beating up this judge, and he has the audacity to come back hat in hand to try to ask for a favor. I
The
think
judge should have said, "Go sell some tea. Go sell some sneakers.
I
That'll
want
do. That'll do it."
I was watching some Fox News clip or OAN or something like this, and
Yeah.
and this and this talking head is sitting there, and he goes, I even hate to say it because it's so fucking racist, but
I know.
he
I
says,
saw it
he
too.
says, "Oh, this sneaker thing by Donald Trump, it is absolute genius because it's a well-known fact black people like sneakers, and now he's going to get all the black people on his side." Are you fucking? Can you? How do you even say that? First of all, whether black people like sneakers or not is beside the fact. People in general don't like ugly shit, and it's ugly. And there's only one pair made. It's going to be 4 or 5 months before you even get the fucking pair. And they said it probably won't look like what you're looking at here. I mean, it's
No.
just absolutely a grift. But this is how they think. I think what triggered Donald Trump with regards to the money thing is when Letitia James knows how to get in his fucking head.
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, he's going to pay one way or another." He says, "All I have to say is every day I go into my office, I look over at 40th Wall Street every fucking day." And she said, we're gonna start liquidating shit." And Donald Trump
Mm.
has two problems there because they don't want to liquidate his shit, but he doesn't have the cash. Plus, he doesn't get to liquidate it. A receiver gets
Right.
to liquidate it, and it's going to be a fucking fire sale. I
Yeah.
think I think with criminal trials and all this stuff, Donald Trump, I know people like him. If it's in the offing, they can convince themselves that it's never going to happen.
Right.
But
Exactly.
this is imminent. This has a drop dead date, 30 days. And if he doesn't happen, some shit's going to happen that he can't control. And this is freaking him out.
The something that I found out very recently that I didn't know, um, because I've had a bee in my bonnet about Fox News for a while,
Yeah.
and first of all, I've been looking into the history, and of course, Ronald Reagan was very instrumental in allowing Rupert Murdoch both to move here. I mean, he moved here in '73 and
Right.
so forth, but he was very tight with Maggie Thatcher. I mean, he'd been doing in Britain what he wound up doing here eventually. I think Maggie probably told Ronnie that this is your guy. You know, this guy's going to start a big propaganda operation for you if you help him out.
Right.
So when Rupert decides he's going to become a citizen so he can become a player in media. At that time, and probably still, an alien could only own 20% of a media company. They couldn't own the whole thing. So he has to become a citizen, which he does, and he buys 20th Century Fox and Metro Media and kind of merges them together into the beginnings of this empire. Plus, he works on a satellite operation for the State Department and the Republican side of it anyway, and to beam stuff worldwide for them. And it's one hand washes the other kind of thing, and
Right.
he's really heavy into um, convincing people that they need to get involved in South America and overthrow the Nicaraguan administration and back the Contras and all of that. He's involved in all of that. But you know who the middleman is? The guy who's working between Rupert Murdoch and Ronald Reagan.
Oh.
Can you think of a historical guy who was a real fixer who maybe also worked for Donald Trump and Roy Cohn?
Oh, yeah.
Roy Cohn.
That
Roy
evil
Cohn
fuck.
was the guy. Yeah, he. You can always tell. You can check the fingerprints, and Roy Cohn's fingerprints are all over the creation of what eventually became Fox News. That didn't come along until 1996, of course, the cable channel. But you know, the Fox affiliates and all of that were in about '85, I think, is when Rupert got that all started and so forth. But it's a big mess. It's all tied in with Reagan and Murdoch and good old Roy Cohn right there helping out,
Well,
who eventually makes Donald Trump, of course.
the interesting thing about Roy Cohn, he was an evil motherfucker. There's no question. He worked
No
with the
doubt about
mob.
it.
He worked with Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan. But ironically, he was gay, right? He
Yeah.
was a gay man, and he died of AIDS.
Yeah.
Talk about fucking karma, huh?
Yeah.
The one guy who's their hero is everything that Republicans are against. That's fucking
Yeah.
crazy.
But I hasten to add, he was closeted. I mean,
Yeah.
people did not know he was
Oh, so
gay.
it doesn't count when you're closeted back then. You're not
No,
really gay if you haven't come out of the closet. He's not
apparently not.
flamboyant. Okay.
Let's put it this: yeah, he didn't do a drag story hour or anything. You know, I mean, he was one of these bathroom guys. You know, like the South Dakota senator. What was his name? Who has the memorial stall at the
At Minneapolis Airport.
Minneapolis Airport. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but you know what I mean. And you know, there are others, and we know who they are. You
Yeah.
know, and I'm sorry that they had the kind of experience where they felt they had to be closeted, that they could not be their authentic selves, and I wonder if that didn't feed some of
The anger.
uh, the anger and everything else that created them, or maybe he was just an asshole. I mean, you got to go back to McCarthy. The McCarthy witch hunt. Roy Cohn was a big part of that.
Yeah.
So he was an asshole wherever he went. Let's put it that way. And being gay had probably nothing to do with it, but it's a fact. And he did die of AIDS.
When I talk about Lindsey Graham or Roy Cohn, people say, why are you calling out gay people? I said, I have no problem with gay people at all. I have problem
No.
with people that are gay that are fighting against their own people, that are trying to
Yeah,
hurt their own people. Those seem to be
exactly.
traitors to me. And I have a rule. I like people, and color and sexual orientation and religion have nothing to do with it. But if you happen to be gay or black or Jewish or whatever, and you happen to be an asshole, you don't get a fucking pass from me. I do what Martin Luther King said to do: base everything on content of their character, regardless of color. And I've run into people uh, that tons of people that are white that are assholes that I don't like, but I've met some black people, some Jewish people, and some gay people that I don't like either. But it has nothing to do with the aesthetics of it all. It has to do with the content of their fucking character. Nobody gets a pass from me. If you're a dick, I fucking don't like you.
Right. It's same with me. I mean, I look at Tim Scott and watch this guy abase himself
Yeah.
to be Trump's flunky. I mean, I just saw a thing the other day. He's sitting there in the front row, and Trump is talking about, yeah, Tim Scott, Tim's a good guy. He's good at selling himself, but he's even better at selling Trump. I think that's a direct quote. And he was the way he said it was he was telling Tim, you better keep doing it if you want a chance of being in my administration, which is what it's all about. So yeah, Tim Scott is a waste of time because he is selling out his people by cozying up. He's selling us all out, okay? But he is cozying up to Trump and will be his, the same. Who was the surgeon guy who is in Trump's camp? He was his housing secretary. The one who's kind of catatonic about half the time. I feel the same way about him.
Well, when
It'll,
I look
it'll,
when I look at Tim Scott, I look at him and his relationship with Donald Trump, and it's as if Donald Trump's calling him boy, and Tim
yeah,
Scott is saying yes, massa, and
that's pretty much it.
he is an insult to
Mm-hmm.
black people in this country, and I hope people recognize that. I'm insulted by it. I'm a big old dumb white guy. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. We got a lot more to talk about, so stick with us. We'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Ed is with us today. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. And you mentioned before, to use an old phrase, because you're an old guy, you have a
Yeah,
bee in your bonnet.
yeah.
All the young people go, what the fuck does that mean? Anyway, you have a bee in your bonnet about something else that's coming up. And I think the whole event is hilarious, but
I,
go
I,
ahead.
I got to throw one in here. I did, one of my TikToks I did on where I referenced that my grandparents, my mother and father were sharecroppers.
Right.
Only, I'm cooking along and I throw this in, and this woman writes me and she says, I enjoy your appearances on the Boomer and I like your TikToks, but I what's a shark robber? And I went back and listened to it. And yeah, I saw, with my accent, which creeps out every now and then. That's what it sounded like. So I told her, no, it's not you, it's me. I said sharecropper, but it came out shark robber. But thanks for clearing that up. I'm sure there are many other people who saw the comment now who were, oh, that's what he meant. But so
Yeah.
thank you very much for pointing that out. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, every now and then, you know how it goes. But
I know. I get a lot of people, not surprising, in my life and on the show saying, what the fuck did you say? The only problem is when they say that to me and I reiterate it to them, you really did say that, you crazy fuck. But anyway, you wanted to talk about this big event, an event that used to be kind of legitimate, but is no longer.
yeah, it's CPAC is what it's called, and it's a conservative convention, and people come from all over the country. I think it's in New York, or is it Washington this time? But it's various places. Sometimes Dallas, somewhere. But all of these right wing speakers show up. People like Charlie Kirk and people like Donald Trump, who's there this year, and Laura Trump is there, and Stefanik, and all of these folks that you see as talking heads on Fox fairly often. They all show up there. People pay for, tickets to sit in the audience and listen to these people, do their spiel. And apparently they're not doing so well this year. They had to put up curtains to make it look like they had more people than they did. They make it look like the place is packed when really half the venue is empty. And like the lady who used to be she was British prime minister for about a week. You remember her? She showed up. There's like 12 people in the audience, that sort of thing, But apparently they've got competition. They've got some summit that's coming up this weekend that's took a lot of people away. But I'm hoping it's just going to die. I mean, I don't know why anybody would do that. I wouldn't go to a Democratic thing of the same nature just to hear a bunch of Democrats bitch about something.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what they're going to say, and these people must know what they're going to say. Maybe they're there for autographs or something. I don't know.
Well, it is almost like a Comic-Con. I mean,
Yeah.
because this is the place where they had the golden statue of Donald Trump. I mean, it's an absolute joke, and just Trump humpers show up. And CPAC's not the only one having problems. I'm hearing that the rallies Donald Trump is having, the crowds are dwindling there. And this is why I tell people, how do you think Donald Trump is going to win the nomination or in November if the people following CPAC or Donald Trump himself are starting to drop off? His support is going down, and he lost by 7 million in 2020. If his support is going down, how does he fucking even consider winning?
You remember Rush Limbaugh?
Yeah, I remember him.
He's been gone 3 years now. Nobody ever mentions him because he was a piece of shit when he was alive, and now he's gone, and
Thank
that's
God.
it. Well, he had this traveling show called the Rush to Excellence Tour that would show up in Minneapolis every year where we lived, and because there was a station there that played his stuff and was a very right-wing station, but I knew a guy who said, I'm going to go see Rush. I'm going to the Rush to Excellence Tour, and he goes and he comes back. Boy, that was great. It was packed. It was terrific, and then the next year comes around. I'm going back to see Rush again. And then he comes back and he goes, well, how was it? And he goes, it was the same shit.
Yeah.
He did exactly the same spiel the second time. I paid $60 to see this guy do the same crap. I'm never going again. And that's what's happened. It's the same stuff you saw on Fox yesterday. That I wonder if Lauren Boebert will be there.
Speaking of Lauren Boebert,
yeah,
did you hear Marjorie Taylor Greene? She was upset about Judge Engoron fining Donald Trump $355 million.
Yeah,
and she said he should be thrown out. He should be disrobed. And I thought that might fit better with Lauren Boebert. She's more into the groping and all that shit. And I'm sure she'd be all over Judge Engoron if given the chance.
Well, I hope she saves some of her money, because I tell you, I don't think Lauren's going to be in the limelight much anymore. From what I understand, she came in like
fifth
in a straw poll for the new district she moved to, because she knew she couldn't get reelected in the other one. So I think she's probably had her 15 minutes. Although who knows, she might show up on Fox News tomorrow for all I know. They tend to.
She's too stupid for that. I mean, it's hard to imagine somebody being too stupid for Fox News, but she is stupid. I mean, they'd have to be constantly fixing what she says, her or Marjorie Taylor Greene. And Marjorie Taylor Greene went to college. It just amazes me how stupid she is. And I think part of it with Republicans It's just like Donald Trump. They don't speak from intelligence. They speak from emotions and they just react to things. And when you do that, you're inevitably going to make some mistakes. The mistakes they make are just absolutely fucking horrific. Have you
Yeah.
been following what's going on down in Florida at all with
Uh,
Judge Aileen Cannon?
I saw the thing this morning. I didn't get a chance to read it in in details, so I can't really comment intelligently. So I'll let you fill me in on
Well,
it.
I don't know that I can speak any more intelligently about it other than what I've seen. Um, Jack Smith went and made a complaint about a couple of things she was doing as far as delays and as far as exposing witnesses, which is all not something you
Right.
should do as a judge. And and he said, "Listen, man, you either need to fucking reconsider this, or we're going to take it to the 11th Circuit." And as of
Yeah.
late, she's been kind of bending to Jack Smith. I think she's finally realized, and it's hard to imagine it took this long. She's finally starting to realize that she's in fucking trouble. She's on a sinking ship, and she better try to straighten up and fly right. Unfortunately, I think Jack Smith is a vicious motherfucker, and she ain't in the clear at all. She's going away at some point soon.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, and that was the what I felt like, and from the gist of what I saw at the article, not being able to read it in depth, it seemed to be that Jack's got her in on the ropes, and he's not the kind who's going to go to a neutral corner.
No.
The to use some sporty metaphors there,
Yeah,
you
you
know.
are sporty. There's no question.
But I mean, this woman's been out of her depth. Her being a woman has nothing to do with it. I'm just using it as an identifier, but she's been out of her depth from the beginning. I mean, she's never even tried a federal case before. She's been involved in them as one of more than one prosecutor, but as a judge, she never really tried a federal case before. She's totally out of her depth. She didn't understand how things are done in some cases. It's a learning curve, you know. I had a friend of mine who was a lawyer, and I asked him, "How did you learn to be a lawyer? I mean, did you come out of law school prepared?" He said, "Hell, no way. No way. You come out of law school ready to learn." He said, "You know what I did? I went to court. I sat in court all day and watched and listened. And then I'd go to the lawyers and say, well, why did you do that? Why did you say this? You know?" And he said, "That's the way I learned to be a lawyer." Not by and you know how it was with radio. You know, you go to radio school and then you get to learn how to do radio.
Exactly.
Um,
I talked to a friend of mine who was older than I, and he was really good. He spoke well. He come off the top of his head. And at that point in my life, I couldn't. It just wasn't clicking. And I said, how do you do that? How do you get good at it? Is this something you were born with, or do I just not have it? And he told me the best advice: just be on the radio fucking every day. Keep doing it. And eventually
yeah,
over time you will learn and get adjusted and acclimated to what you're doing, and it'll become second nature. And I could have gotten no better advice. The longer I did it, the better I got. And I think that's the case in any kind of job. You can get your education, but that doesn't really ready you for being top of the game when you get into any business.
no,
You got to get that experience under your belt. You got to have that time and figure it out for yourself, because everybody's different. Every radio guy is different. Every judge and every lawyer is different. You have your own style, and you got to find it and settle into it. Aileen Cannon, though, she's got two problems. She's obviously biased toward Donald Trump, which is
right.
disturbing. But like you say, she's also dumb as fuck in terms of what her job's supposed to be. So she's
Yeah.
got a double-edged sword here of things that can go wrong. And that's why I'm saying Jack Smith is not going to tolerate it, even though she's bending for him now a little bit. He knows it's going to go south anyways. She's never tried a federal case, and this may be the biggest federal case in the history of this country. That's
Hmm.
a recipe for fucking disaster.
Yeah, I'm amazed that the 11th Circuit didn't step in right at the beginning and say, we really need a more experienced judge to run things in this. I mean, there were others available.
Right.
It was luck of the draw. that or maybe there was manipulation behind the scenes, who knows, but that she wound up with the case was just problematic to begin with. I mean, anyone who is supporter, I mean, she was well known as a supporter of Donald Trump. I mean, there
Right.
was no doubt about that.
And
And
he
that
appointed
alone,
her.
to me, yeah, there should have been no. She should have been not able to take the case simply because disqualified. She should have been disqualified simply because she was a well-known Trump supporter. And that's different from just being a Republican, for
Well,
example.
and that's why I think there was something behind the scenes. She was involved in 11th Circuit being overturned, and just by luck of the draw, she got this case. That seemed a little fishy to me. I mean, let's remember
Yeah.
they're in fucking Florida. The
Yeah.
Republicans have tainted that state so badly, and then she gets appointed to do this trial. Now, I think they knew she was dumb, and I think they knew she was biased. I personally think that they thought she could gum this up enough where it would go on
Yeah.
forever. But
I
now it's
think
gotten
that's
to
the idea.
but now it's gotten to the point where the state of Florida, the 11th Circuit, and her court are a complete embarrassment. She's so dumb and so complicit that it's obvious, and now they have to deal with the embarrassment. They got what they asked for, and now they fucking regret it.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that she's either well, the idea would be she would recuse herself, or the 11th Circuit would say no, this isn't going to work,
Yeah,
um, and that it moves forward. That would be my ideal. Now the other thing is the Fannie Willis case down in
Georgia.
uh, Georgia. Now that we had this distraction, which should have never been allowed to take place. Let's face it. I mean,
No,
there's no, it's there. So as they say, a nothing burger. There was nothing there. There's no there. It's just been a distraction, and even if everything that they said was true, it does not affect the fact that Donald Trump is guilty as hell,
no.
and the thing should go forward. As it turns out, of course, it's bullshit, totally. But still, once again, I guess they figured that if they can get rid of her, then the case dies, and maybe it would have. I don't know, but that's what happened. That's what they were going for here. But you got to remember, look at how many people have already pleaded guilty in this case. And
Yeah.
Donald Trump is innocent. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean it's all about everything that the Republicans do. It's a distraction. They've got nothing, no substance to work on. So they try to distract to either delay or confuse or create chaos in hopes that it's all going to fall apart. They've been doing this for the last 3 years and none of it has worked, but they still keep doing it. We're going to do this distraction. We're going to do this delay, but it's not working, but it's all they have. So, I mean, I just heard something. We've got final arguments coming up in this case with Fani Willis pretty quick. I'm not sure when it is. They're going to do the final arguments, then a decision. McAfee will decide whether or not she should be taken off the case. And there's been no evidence, which is so
No.
common with Republicans, no evidence to take her off the case. She will not be taken off the case, and it will all be um, will all be all for naught. Now, something came out today, and it's interesting. So, cell data contradicts Fani Willis's testimony. Court documents suggest. Now, who's that coming from? That's coming from a local TV channel in Palm Beach. So I'm sure they're
Yeah.
credible. But now
Yeah.
they're trying to grasp a win from the depths of defeat. They know they don't have her. So now they're going to
Right.
come up with all kinds of shit. And this is the problem we have with Republicans. They're constantly be grabbing at shit to try to make their point, like the Republicans did with this fucking Russian spy. They'll do anything to make their point, whether it's legal or true or anything. And that's what they're trying to do in Georgia. And it's just not fucking working.
Right. Well, Republicans in general, whether it's in Congress, whether it's in the courts, wherever it may be, the problem with Republicans or conservatives, let's say in general, is that they envision a result and then they want to make the facts fit it.
Right,
They
right,
always go to the end. In general, I see that most of the time, what liberals do is consider everything and then reach a conclusion.
right.
No, not with conservatives. Now, conservatives already have what they want. They see it on the horizon there, and they're gonna build a road to get to it. Whereas the liberals will see the destination and they will take the roads to get there that already exist. They will follow the facts, and whether it's governing, no matter what it is, you have to deal with reality. Conservatives never ever do. They always have their pie in the sky idea, and that's what they're going to go for. And they will make it up as they go if they have to. And we see that with the current House of Representatives, Senate too, but mainly the House of Representatives. Biden is guilty, and we're going to do whatever it is that we have to do to prove that. Of course, they keep proving the opposite. That
Right.
all of their things are bullshit, and what they're doing is simply distracting from the fact that they aren't doing what they're supposed to do, which is to make life better for their constituents. All of them, not just the ones who voted for them, not just the ones who agree with them, but all of their constituents, whether they are gay, trans, black, it doesn't matter, women. You've got to go for the outcome, the best outcome for everybody, and they don't. They see this small group of people that they answer to, the conservative, the oligarchs. They see that that's who I work for. That's all I am going to have to do. And everything else is just a distraction. Why do I care if these kids get fed or not? That's not my problem. Their parents shouldn't have had them if they couldn't afford them. That
Right.
kind of bullshit. And that's why evangelicals, if you're supporting conservatives, you're on the wrong side.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, now that you bring that up, we need to bring up the continuing saga of the continuing resolution, because every couple of months we sit and talk about the impending doom of a government
Yeah.
shutdown, and now we're looking it flat in the face.
Again.
March 1. Um, and I'm trying to remember here. We've got this government shutdown possibly happening, and so they did the continuing resolution because they don't want to shut the country down. The Republicans act like they do, but they don't, because they know they're going to take the heat for it. But they keep doubling down and tripling down, and they put it off. They move the goalposts back, and that's what they've done here again. And we are 1 week away from a government shutdown if they don't come to some continuing resolution or an actual resolution. Now, what's fucked up about it is the Congress took off last week and all of this week. Time they could have been working on this, but they didn't. So now they're back Monday. That gives them 4 days to come up with a resolution to this whole thing that they haven't been able to come up with in the last 8-9 months. So the question is, what are they going to do now that they come back on Monday and they've got to get this worked out? The Republicans, MAGA Republicans, aren't going to be happy until we get a shutdown. And if the shutdown occurs, the Republicans are going to take the beating for it. And so the Democrats are saying, no, we're just going to do it this way or fuck you. And that's the way to play it. But do you think when they come to the 29th of February, that they're just going to do another continuing resolution? And are they going to do continuing resolutions up until the election?
That would be my guess. I wonder, though, if as you pointed out, the MAGA Republicans still have the power to remove Mike Johnson, and they might just do that. I mean, they might just, let's face it, they don't care if the government shuts down. It doesn't affect them at all. Whereas you and I won't be getting our DNC checks, and that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, seriously, they don't care. They're not living on Social Security or they're not well, there's so many things that are involved with it that a government shutdown would, number one, it wouldn't do much good for the booming economy, which I was just looking at my 401k yesterday and going, whoopee,
Yeah.
I mean, what is with these people? I don't understand. When you've got an economy that's doing as well as it is, for some, obviously there are people who are suffering because the corporations raise the prices and they're not lowering them, even though there is no reason for the prices to be as high as they are.
Right.
I mean, we had the chairman of PepsiCo the other day saying, no, we're not going to lower the prices because we make good products and people buy them, so we deserve to charge anything we want to. Well, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That PepsiCo needs to be broken up. They all do.
Yeah.
But so yeah, not everybody is doing well, but those with investments are doing terrific
Yeah.
because this is the best economy in years, and that's because there's a Democrat in the White House. It always does better under Democrats.
Absolutely.
Although there's this weird idea out there that Republicans are somehow good for the economy. They're good for rich people, damn
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah.
Because to get another tax cut, and look, that's what Trump is promising right now. He promised a whole room full of rich people. I'm going to cut your taxes again.
It's funny
And
how the Republicans have themselves pretty much shit canned everything they want to campaign on. They always
right,
campaigned on overturning Roe v. Wade, and they did it.
yeah,
But then they find out 75% of the country is against them on that. They have these elections and in all these states, and the red states beat it every time. So that's not a popular thing. They're trying to convince us that Joe Biden is a crook. Yet now we find out the only way we have evidence of that is coming from Russian intelligence. That's been exploded. The economy, they're not talking about the economy anymore because for every data point, the economy is doing well. Everything the Republicans wanted to campaign on isn't working. Take, for example, the border. Oh, Joe Biden's leaving the border open. But when they had the chance to shut it down, Republicans decided against it. What the fuck are they going to even campaign on going up to November? Every talking point they have has been proved wrong, and they did it to themselves.
they did, but unfortunately, they have done they have done their work well with the Republican base.
Yeah.
That 70% of them still think there was skullduggery with the election, and that Jesus loves Republicans. Let's face it, that's what they're selling, and that's what their base is buying. And it's obviously false. I can prove it to you in 10 minutes if I wanted to, but it wouldn't work because it's like talking to a wall, right? I know these people. I live among them.
Yeah.
you know,
Well, the thing is they've got so many problems leading up to November, the inactivity in the House of Representatives. They've literally done nothing. There's nothing they can campaign on that they did. They got all these criminal trials and all this exposure to Russian assets. You mentioned this before, and this is something the Democrats really have to get on because I think it'd be the one thing that might turn the base a little bit is this whole complicity with Russia and Vladimir Putin. Now, some people, some of the dumb motherfuckers, the young people or the dumb people that follow him will never be swayed. So we shouldn't even worry about them. But you scare enough people with Russian infiltration into this country. I mean, how much more do you have to say? They meddled in the 2016, 2020 election. Donald
mhm.
Trump said he believed Vladimir Putin over the intelligence agencies in our own country. We find out they're now trying to take down Joe Biden with Russian intelligence.
Yeah.
As you said, they are complicit with Russia. The entire Republican Party, whether some people say they aren't because they're better minded, they're supporting what's going on. So they're just as bad.
Well, I've seen this T-shirt. I'd rather be a Russian than a Democrat. I mean, what does that say? I mean, if this was 1950, people would beat you up for that because
Yeah,
they knew, what was going on. And, but they are in a separate reality. That's what it comes down to.
it really is.
They
It really
see a
is.
whole different world than you and I do. I'm not sure what the color of the sky is there, but it's not blue like ours is.
No, and it's kind of frightening that we watch the media and they continue to put uh, state this thing that, oh, it's so close. You gotta you gotta make sure you get out there and vote because it's so close and our lives depend on it. I don't see it that way, and some people give me shit. Well, you should make people feel comfortable because then they won't go vote. I, to me, that's insulting to the audience that if
Mhm.
I don't scare you, you won't vote. That means I think you're stupid. And I know people are smarter than that. People will vote because they have a concern about the future for their kids and all that stuff. The fact that they keep trying to push on us that it's going to be close is ridiculous. I mean, think back to the 70s or the 80s when little fucking things like that would happen, like Gary Hart and having a girl sit on his lap. That ended his career. The idea that all this stuff really means nothing and Donald Trump still has a chance is absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Right. I don't see it either. But at the same time, I'm going to encourage everybody to get their ass out and vote. I mean, why even risk it? Although I don't think it's going to be close, even. I think it'll be about the same as it was last time. I can't believe that Trump has gained any votes.
No. Well, all you have to do is look at his rallies and CPAC. People aren't showing
Yeah.
up. All you have to do is look at how his fundraising is going. Did you know that last month Biden was the number one fundraiser?
Yeah.
Nikki Haley was number two, and
Yeah.
Donald Trump was third. He's
Yeah.
having
And
trouble collecting money.
I'm not sure Nikki isn't being backed by the Democrats now. She can be out there saying everything that she's saying, and she's not mincing words now. She's calling him everything but a nice guy, and that's great. I love that she's still in it. I love that she's still calling him task,
Yeah.
even though she's, I mean, here, I think embryos are baby. Shut up. Just
Yeah.
shut up. She used in vitro fertilization to have her kid, and now, and now she's going, and then of course she walked it back, but
Well, and did you hear the interview with Tommy Tuberville? They said, "What do you think about
yeah.
this?" I think it was a good
Oh, it's
idea. We need
wonderful.
to do that. We need more kids. Yeah, but IVH means having more kids. Well, I have to look at that.
Yeah.
That's a conversation for another day. It's just these people are so fucking. Do they not read? Do they not even understand what they're
No,
talking about? It's just
no.
bloviating off the top of their head, just making shit up. That's the best explanation.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Do you think he really thought it through before he started blocking promotions for people in the military so that
No.
he could, get some sort of abortion ban and through there? Did he think that through? No, but he stuck with it because that's what they do. They set this goal and then they will do anything that they have to do to get to that goal, where it makes sense or not, and it
Yeah.
never does.
Yeah, I really think coming up to November, when we get down to September or so, you're going to see the media starting to change because they want to
Mhm.
get on the right bandwagon. I really believe this is going to uh, be the blue wave that everybody's talking about because that's the only explanation. There's so
Yeah.
much bad going on. And I do hope Donald Trump sticks it out as long as he can. And as much as I don't think he'll be the nominee, I pray that he will be. Because as long as this election is about Donald Trump, it's a big time loser for Republicans. Just look at 2022.
Absolutely. I don't want Nikki Haley to be the Republican nominee. Not because I think that she has anything to offer. I mean, I don't think she has anything to offer. It's just that she would have more appeal than Donald Trump does to certain people, perhaps some independents, perhaps even some Democrats, but because she's young,
Well, yeah, a bulldog with lipstick and a bad attitude
yeah,
would be more appeasing than Donald Trump. Donald Trump,
yeah,
for the vast majority of people in this country, is a pariah. People always worry about this base. Even the Republicans worry about this base. Oh, we got to keep them together. The fact of the matter is, the base isn't big enough to win a fucking election. Donald Trump did not win in 2016 because of the base. He won because the base was there and the other Republicans were just went along to get along, and he's Republican,
yeah.
so I'm going to vote for him. That's something somebody else said too, is Donald Trump is a much weaker candidate today than he was in 2020
Oh,
because of all that's
absolutely.
been revealed.
Yeah, and we've had to put up with him for another 4 years with
Yeah.
his bombastic crap. Uh, if you just look at Trump for what we know, just what we know, not what is alleged, not what has not been judged yet, just what we know. Here's a guy who raped a woman. A jury said, you raped this woman, and then you badmouthed her, and then you badmouthed her again. And we're going to make you pay all this money. You got away with the rape, but you're not going to get away with the slander. So they hit him hard with that. He had a charity that he was robbing from. We know that.
A
He had
couple
a
of them.
he had a university that was a scam, and he made $200 million and had to pay $25 million. I will never understand that judgment. He should have had to pay $400 million instead of 25. That's a scam. He bankrupted a casino. I mean, a casino is a license to print money. I mean, this is how bad a businessman he is. Everything he touches turns to shit. He is a complete idiot. He knows nothing. He thinks windmill sound causes cancer. I mean, he told people to drink bleach and to take dewormer, horse dewormer, and that the pandemic would go away. This is the things we know about him. Brookings Institute, 784,000 people died because of Trump.
Yeah.
And the way he handled the pandemic. I mean, that's in there. We know these things. We know these things. So why would you ever consider voting for somebody who did just these things? Forget all of the other stuff that hasn't been judged yet.
It's an interesting commentary on this country when you go back to the 60s and 70s. When John F. Kennedy was running for election in 1960, the biggest black mark he had against him, I mean, he obviously he was Catholic. He was Catholic.
Yeah.
And then in the 60s and 70s, if a guy actually got divorced or went to see a psychiatrist, that ended their career. Now we got a guy that can rape women, steal money from people, and people still support him. That says a lot about this country and about the people in this country. We've become, and when I say we, I'm talking about the entire group, not each and every one of us. We've become a fucking horrible group of people.
Yeah.
We're willing to accept anything just to get what we want.
And we don't see, this is the thing, we don't get it. I mean, the Republican base who supports Trump, they never get what he promises.
No.
I mean, rich people get tax cuts. They have to pay more.
Right.
And they still vote for the guy who's telling them, essentially, you're going to have to pay more. Oh, and that Social Security shit, you're not going to get that. No. And that Medicare, we're repealing Obamacare, so you don't get insurance. So you don't get health care either. He tells them that.
Well, and that's the thing. If people have to understand, they believe the trickle down thing, and the trickle down thing doesn't work. I don't think that rich people have to pay an exorbitant percentage, because at one time they were paying like 90%. I don't think they have to do that. They just have to pay their fair share and we'd be fine.
Right.
I mean, what are they paying now? Like 15%? And what are you and I paying? 30%?
Probably. It depends on this.
Yeah, make them pay 30%.
It depends on the state you're in. Like you're in, okay, let's say I'm a person making $20,000 a year, and I live in Minnesota. Okay, there's a child tax credit, there's a earned income tax credit, and so forth. I actually pay less in Minnesota than I do in Tennessee, where there is no state income tax because the sales tax and the excise taxes are so much higher that I think here we pay 7% more than you do, even though
Right.
we don't have a state income tax, and you do.
Yeah, that's always been a shell game as far as I'm concerned. I have people telling me all the time, I'm going to Florida, I'm going to Nevada, I'm going to South Dakota because they don't have state sales tax. Yeah, but when
Yeah,
I go to Florida, I go through fucking 9 tolls just to get to Georgia. And
exactly.
and taxes, sales tax is fucking ridiculous. It's a shell game. You're not getting any break by going to someplace. I like the fact, if I have to pay more money in Minnesota, I appreciate all the fucking things that Minnesota and our current governor Walz is doing. I know a lot of Republicans hate him, but I've seen him on national television a lot recently, and with as
Yeah,
much he's accomplished in the last 4 years or something. I mean, he's accomplished some amazing things with not much of a majority in the House or in the
well,
legislature. He could be a presidential candidate, and he'd be a fucking good one.
yeah, I think that's something for the future. I mean, there's a number of Minnesota politicians, he and Amy Klobuchar. There's some others that I think will have their time in the national spotlight coming up. But what it comes down to is liberal policies. When they're allowed to work, they work.
Yeah.
Conservative policies never work. They don't deliver. They only deliver for very rich people, not the middle class, not even the upper middle class. It's the really rich people who make out like bandits. Everybody else suffers with
Well,
conservative.
yeah. Well, my wife, we've talked about this Merrick Garland thing. I like Merrick Garland when he first came in, and now I want that fucker gone because I don't
Yeah,
think he has the temerity to do the fucking job. I don't think
no,
he has the aggressiveness. I think he's too worried about public opinion. He needs to fucking go. He's not going to go until all these trials are over or after the election. My wife keeps telling me, and I have to agree with her this time. I don't always agree with her until she makes a point that you better fucking agree with me. But she
yeah,
thinks Amy Klobuchar would be a great attorney general. And I don't
I
disagree
do.
with that.
I do not either. I think she would be amazing. I wish that Biden had made her the attorney general. She is a bulldog. She sticks to it. She is a workhorse. She is brilliant. And you put all that together, she would have had Trump under the jail by now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And she's pretty polished too. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the difference between the only difference between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley is Nikki Haley is younger and she's more polished. But her ideas are still the same as Donald Trump. If you
yeah,
elect Nikki Haley, you're getting Donald Trump with a new fucking paint job. That's all you're
yeah.
fucking getting.
That's all there is. Any Republican, they're all the same. There is not a decent Republican in the bunch. Not anymore. Once upon a time, I thought there were a few. I thought John McCain was a decent guy. I thought Howard Baker was a great man. I mean, there have been Republicans that I have respected for sure. I like Arnie Carlson for the most part
Yeah.
in Minnesota. Some others. There have been great Republicans. There aren't anymore. They're
Well,
gone.
you have to admit the Republicans prior to 2015 to the Republicans now, they're entirely different animals. They aren't even on the same fucking page. You can't even call what we have now as Republicans because they bear no resemblance to what we once
No.
knew as Republicans. I disagreed with the Republicans in some ways, but never this fervently because they were always willing to do what the Democrats did and kind of negotiate and compromise. But now that compromise is gone on both sides, so that's why nothing gets done. And what people have to understand, Republicans come in, we go to shit. Democrats come in, they get some things done, but they don't get nearly as much done as they should because the whole time Democrats are in, the only job of Republicans is obstructing anything the Democrats want to do. So the Democrats have a double problem. They've got to get this done and they got to fight against this brick wall that happens to be the fucking Republican Party.
Yeah, it started with Clinton's second term, and it just
Yeah.
kept right on going. I mean, it started with Newt Gingrich and the whole idea of we're there just to obstruct, and we get rid of anybody in our party who's willing to negotiate with the other side. So it started with Newt, and it just kept coming forward. And now we're at a point where, quite frankly, the Republicans in the House of Representatives, I can't even think of a profession that I would say they're fit for. I don't think they're fit for much of anything, to be honest with you. I wouldn't trust them to pick up my garbage.
People always look at Barack Obama and they say he's a good president. Some people may not say that he was a great president because he didn't get some things done. But what people have to understand is Obama, given the circumstances, was a great president because he brought us back from the financial depths that
Yeah.
George W. Bush put us in. He got a lot of stuff accomplished, like ACA, but anything he didn't get accomplished wasn't because he didn't want to or he didn't try, but he got pushback from obstructionist Republicans every step of the way. Instead of talking about Barack Obama's failings, what we should be talking about how much he got done with the pushback. And that same thing is happening with Biden now. Biden's got a lot done, but what could he have gotten done without the bullshit of the Republican Party?
If we had had a Democratic Senate and House, we would have weathered the pandemic better than we did. The economy would be on a much more solid footing than it is. There's so many things that would have happened that he wanted to happen. For example, he's been able to get $35 insulin for some people. He's been able to make Big Pharma negotiate with Medicare and so forth, but he could have done a lot more. We could have really fixed healthcare if we had the House and the Senate. It can be done. When you have the presidency and Congress, you can get a lot done. When you have the Supreme Court too, you can get everything done. So I still think that that's going to have to be addressed. I do think the court's going to have to be expanded in order for us to put this country right again and to bleach out all of the horrible things that have come our way since Reagan, because they have been horrible.
I believe in destiny, and with all the shit we've been through for all these many years, I believe that turning point and that destiny is Biden as president, control in the House and the Senate, and then we can start to get some things done. And I agree with you. The two first things we have to address if we want to protect democracy and protect the people of this country, first thing, you got to codify Roe v. Wade. Don't wait on that anymore. You waited too fucking long. Democrats are at fault because of that. And then secondly, we've got to address the Supreme Court because that is a key component to fucking democracy. And if you really want to save democracy, you got to straighten that shit out.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll take care of the filibuster while we're at it. And that will go a long way toward helping us do what we need to do. But the fact is, Democrats in general want everybody to do better. Conservatives, and I'm going to say Republicans, but conservatives want a small group of people to do better. They really do believe you need to be a rich white man or you're a servant.
Yeah, what I don't understand is how short-sighted Republicans are. They want to keep stealing from the middle class. Let's be honest, the middle class is the backbone of this country where a lot of the money, if not all the money, is coming from. Why would you want to drain them dry and then have no place to get your money from? The more the middle class is flourishing, the better the country and the better everybody's doing, including the rich fucks, because they can sell more shit. I don't know why they can't see that, why they have no foresight.
Well, I think business as it was, they turned their back on it. I think with private equity and all of that, now what they're doing is business is acquiring businesses and gutting them. That's what business is to them. And the housing is a scam. You buy up all the housing and then you can charge people anything you want to for rent. The rest can go homeless for all you care. You know, I mean, it's really to the point where they want to turn everything back, you know, to Robin Hood's time when
Right.
the good guys are hiding out in the forest shooting arrows at the sheriff of Nottingham's men occasionally because they're coming in and stealing everything from the villagers, and King John is on his throne. That's what they're aiming for, quite frankly. And there's there's the king, a few nobles, and everybody else is either an enforcer or they're slave labor. That's what they're looking at.
Well, you know, there was one, I don't remember who it was and what it was on, but somebody was speaking at a CPAC type of situation, and they flat out said that Republicans are going to try to destroy democracy. We almost got there in
Yeah,
2020, but we
yeah,
didn't make it, so we're going to do it. They're saying the quiet part out loud. They want to
yeah.
destroy democracy, and they want to make the middle class poor. What more do you have to fucking say to lose votes? I mean, and all these poor ass Republican Trump-a-fucks are going, yeah, that's what we want. And they're not going, wait a minute. You're kicking our ass? They're so stupid they can't comprehend that.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's they have lost the capacity for rational thought. Now they no longer think, they only believe. And when you reach that point, it's hopeless unless you get a wake up call that's something you can't deny. And I don't know what that would be at this point, because they are so barred down. Republicans look up to them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end here, Ed. It's always a robust conversation when Ed comes to town.
Did we solve it? Did we solve it today?
I think we can just shut everything down.
Yeah.
We've decided how the election's going to go and what needs to be
Yeah.
done right. So yeah, I think we're done here.
Well, that was a close.
It was close. Thank God for people like us to come in and solve the world's problems.
It's
But
true.
but I appreciate you coming by and spending time to talk. It's always a pleasure. We'll talk to you again next week, and hopefully we've got some good news for the Democrats and really bad news for the Republicans. People say, some of the Republicans come to me and say, you get a lot of joy out of other people's misery. And that's not totally true. I get a lot of joy out of the misery of Republicans. Other people, I understand. I'm empathetic. But yeah, I love seeing Republicans suffer because they've done nothing but make other people suffer. I feel no mercy for those motherfuckers.
Yeah, and I encourage everybody in the meantime to join me at Holler Troll on TikTok. Got a couple of new ones coming up in the next day or so, and always glad to interact with you there.
Right. Somebody said that they were looking for you and using Reeling in the years, and they were having trouble finding it. And I said, just go to at Holler Troll, whether it be YouTube or TikTok, you will find Ed, and you will be glad you did.
Yeah, at Holler Troll, that's the way to go. Reeling in the years, that's kind of a subheading or something. The address you want is at Holler Troll on TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely. Check Ed out. It is very entertaining. It's not the same as what you hear from him here. It might be a little politically slanted, but they're excellent stories. And Ed is an excellent storyteller. And if you're listening to this show and you're not checking out Holler Troll, we'll be coming to your house, making sure you do. It's well worth the time spent to look for it. So Ed, thank you very much. I appreciate it. The folks at home, thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.